Tonight we're going vertical. We're climbing past the noise, past the chaos, past the point where most buildings dare to go. We're ascending to the quietest places on Earth, where the air gets thin, the world gets small, and the only sound is the gentle hum of elevators carrying dreams toward the clouds. This is the story of humanity's strangest obsession, building towers so tall they scrape the sky itself. It begins not just with steel and glass, but with a simple, almost childish question. What if we just kept building up? Before we climb any higher, if you're enjoying this journey, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. Tell me the tallest building you've ever set foot in. Now, for centuries, the answer was stone, wood, and sheer will. Think of the pyramids or the cathedrals of Europe. They were magnificent, but they had a ceiling. They were as tall as stone could stack before the weight would crush the bottom. Then came the Industrial Revolution. With steel, the sky was no longer the limit. It was an invitation. In Paris, a man named Gustave Eiffel built a monument to his new age, the Eiffel Tower. It wasn't just a building, it was a latticework of iron designed to be disassembled after a few years. Parisians thought it was hideous, a temporary scar on the skyline. But it proved that a building could be light, strong, and impossibly tall. And for a few short years, it was the tallest structure on Earth. It was a pivot point. It was also a perfect laboratory. Eiffel's team studied how the tower swayed in the wind, gathering data that would be essential for future skyscrapers. The lattice work wasn't just artistic. It was a testament to engineering, designed to allow the wind to pass through rather than push against it. The Eiffel Tower was a whisper of what was to come, a promise that humanity could build upward without fear. And yet, for every Eiffel Tower that reached the sky, there were 1,000 dreams that fell to earth. Imagine the lighthouse of Alexandria, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It was said to have reached over 300 feet tall, a beacon for sailors. But it was made of stone, and centuries of earthquakes finally reduced it to rubble. Gone. Then there were the massive wooden pagodas of China, which could soar to great heights until a fire started. The tallest one in Tianjin burned to the ground. The fire itself was a spectacle, but it was also a reminder. Tall but flammable. The sky doesn't forgive mistakes. A tall building is useless, too, if you can't get to the top. The secret to the skyscraper wasn't steel. It was something far more mundane. The elevator. Before the elevator, the top floor of any building was worthless. No one wanted to climb more than a few flights. It was the realm of the poor, the artists, and the servants. In 1853, a man named Elijah Otis changed everything. At a public demonstration, he stood on a platform that was hoisted high into the air. He then had the rope cut. The crowd gasped. The platform dropped a few feet and stopped. His newly invented safety brake had engaged. The elevator was no longer a death trap. It was a key to the sky. From Otis's simple safety brake came a revolution in vertical movement. by the 1880s, hydraulic elevators could lift passengers smoothly and quietly. The gentle whoosh of water pressure, the soft cushion of hydraulic fluid. It was like riding in a vertical boat, floating upward through a building's core. And then came electric elevators in the 1890s. Suddenly, buildings could be taller because elevators could move even faster. The Otis Elevator Company developed high-speed motors that could carry passengers 30, 40, 50 floors without breaking a sweat. The elevator shaft became the spine of the skyscraper, a quiet column where people rose and fell like gentle breath. Modern elevators are marvels of whispered technology. Double-decker elevators that serve 2 floors simultaneously. Horizontal elevators that move sideways through a building like gentle streams. In the Shanghai Tower, elevators travel at 46 miles per hour, fast enough to make your ears pop, but smooth enough to barely notice you're moving at all. The elevator control room in a modern skyscraper looks like mission control for a space program. Hundreds of floors, dozens of cars, all choreographed in a silent ballet. Computers calculate the most efficient routes, predicting where people want to go before they even press the button. It's artificial intelligence applied to the simple human desire to rise above the world. Imagine your apartment is on the 30th floor and the elevator is broken. The thought alone is exhausting. By the time you reached your door, you wouldn't be thinking about the view. You'd be thinking about a pillow, possibly in the stairwell, possibly forever. That's why the elevator matters. It turns a chore into a quiet, vertical journey. It's a box that carries you to the clouds while you doze off. Now, the true birth of the skyscraper happened not in New York, but in Chicago. And it happened because the city burned down. The Great Chicago Fire of 1871 created something architects dream of but rarely get: a blank canvas. When the smoke literally cleared, downtown Chicago was gone. But instead of rebuilding the same low, heavy buildings, a group of architects decided to build up instead of out. They called themselves the Chicago School, though they were less about school and more about revolution. Louis Sullivan, their unofficial leader, coined the phrase that would define modern architecture: form follows function. No more fake columns, no more decorative stonework, just clean, honest buildings that did exactly what they were supposed to do: rise. The Home Insurance Building, completed in 1885, was technically the world's first skyscraper. At 10 stories, it wouldn't impress anyone today. It looked more like a warehouse than a tower. But hidden inside its modest walls was the secret that would change everything. It had a steel frame. Instead of thick stone walls holding up the building, thin steel beams carried all the weight. The walls became curtains, literally curtain walls, hung from the steel skeleton like fabric. Suddenly, buildings could be as tall as engineers could make the frame, not as tall as stone could stack. Daniel Burnham perfected the formula with the Masonic Temple building in 1892. 22 stories of pure ambition. It was the tallest building in the world. Visitors came from around the globe just to ride its elevators and peer down at the streets below. It was demolished in 1939, but by then it had taught the world a simple lesson. If you can dream it tall enough, you can probably build it. The Chicago school architects weren't trying to scrape the sky. They were just solving a practical problem: how to fit more offices on expensive downtown land. But in solving that problem, they accidentally invented the future. Every skyscraper since has been a variation on their theme: a steel skeleton dressed up in whatever style happens to be fashionable. In the late 1920s, the race to build the world's tallest building became a spectacle. At the center of it, two titans of industry battling for bragging rights over the New York City skyline. The Chrysler Building, designed by architect William Vaughan Allen, was a masterpiece of Art Deco. It had gargoyles that looked like radiator caps, a crown of sunburst arches, and a lobby covered in onyx and chrome. Van Allen was so secretive about the spire that he had it constructed inside the building and then, in a single day, had it hoisted into place. When it was finally revealed, it made the Chrysler Building the tallest in the world. The gargoyles weren't just decorative, they were automotive art, shaped like radiator caps and hubcaps from 1920s Chrysler cars. They perched on the building's corners like metallic guardians. At night, when lit from below, they cast long shadows across the city. The building's stainless steel spire was designed to catch and reflect light in every direction, making the entire top floors shimmer like a beacon. Even the elevator doors in the lobby were etched with intricate transportation motifs: cars, ships, airplanes, all the ways humans had learned to move through space, now immortalized in steel and onyx. Skyscrapers are impressive, but they can also be a little eccentric. The Woolworth Building in New York, for example, had a fully operational swimming pool and a barber shop in the basement. The Chrysler Building once had a working car showroom right at the top, and the Empire State Building famously tried to rent out its top floor as the world's highest office. But nobody ever wanted to be that high that often, so the office was barely used. The skyscrapers are great feats of engineering, but sometimes their designers get carried away with a little impracticality. The Empire State Building was built just a year later, designed by William F. Lamb. It was bigger, bolder, and more, well, American. But the Great Depression was in full swing, and nobody wanted to rent office space. For years, the building was a ghost ship in the sky. It earned the nickname the Empty State Building. But the silence of the Empty State Building was a quiet lie, because beneath the empty offices, a silent army of construction workers was moving at a pace that seemed to defy gravity. The Empire State Building was built at a furious pace, more than 4 stories a week. They used a specially created Empire State Express system to move materials up and down the building in a continuous loop. Over 3,400 men, mostly immigrants, worked on the tower, and they built it in a stunning 1 year and 45 days. The building's steel skeleton rose at such a rapid pace that observers below would say it was growing. The Empire State Building's most famous resident was fiction, King Kong, a giant gorilla that climbed to the top, swatting at planes. He was a perfect metaphor for the ambition of the building. But there were other, even stranger plans for the top. The building's original design included a massive dirigible mooring mast, a place for passenger blimps to dock. Yes, they actually thought passengers would disembark from blimps at the top of a skyscraper, step into the building, and take an elevator to the ground. It never happened, of course, but it's a testament to the wild, dreamy ambition of the era. Now, while the daytime workers ride elevators to their offices, another world awakens when the sun sets. This is when the skyscraper reveals its true personality, not as a place of business, but as a vertical city that never sleeps. The night security guard in the Empire State Building walks miles every shift, his footsteps echoing through empty hallways. His flashlight beam cuts through darkened offices where computer screens glow like electronic stars. He knows every shadow, every creak, every sound the building makes as it settles into the cool night air. The elevators move differently at night, slower, quieter, as if they too were trying not to wake the sleeping giant. Cleaning crews arrive after midnight, their carts rolling softly down carpeted hallways. They work floor by floor, office by office, in a choreographed dance of mops and vacuum cleaners. The elevators become freight platforms, carrying supplies and taking away the day's accumulated dust and debris. These workers see the skyscraper in its most intimate state. Empty desks with family photos, coffee cups left half-finished, notes scribbled on whiteboards that'll be erased tomorrow. In the mechanical floors, those hidden levels between the office floors, engineers monitor the building's vital signs. HVAC systems hum their nighttime songs. Water pumps circulate hundreds of thousands of gallons. Electrical panels distribute power to emergency lighting that glows like a soft constellation through the building's bones. These caretakers are the night shift doctors of vertical cities, keeping the giants healthy while the world sleeps. And high above, in the radio and television transmission rooms, signals beam out across the city. Late-night radio DJs broadcasting to insomniacs, emergency frequencies crackling with the quiet chatter of a city that never fully rests. From these heights, invisible waves carry voices, music, and dreams across the sleeping metropolis below. The next era of skyscrapers was all about height through sheer size. In the 1970s, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center rose in Manhattan. Their design was brutally simple. Two sleek black boxes that seemed to stretch into eternity. At the top of one, the famous Windows of the World restaurant, offering a panoramic view of the entire city. The towers were a marvel of minimalist engineering. Instead of a thick core of columns, the buildings used a tube within a tube design. The steel columns on the outside walls carried the majority of the weight, and in the core, a few steel columns supported the elevators and other infrastructure. This design meant that the office floors could be vast open spaces, perfect for the open plan offices of the 1970s. The windows were only 18 inches wide, a design choice meant to reduce the heat load from the sun and create a sense of security. Imagine having a five-star meal thousands of feet above the sidewalk. At a high-altitude restaurant, waiters had to carry soup more carefully than mountain climbers carried ropes. It's a serene, almost surreal experience to be so high above a city of millions while you are part of a quiet, elegant world. And then came the Sears Tower in Chicago. Its designers used a bundle tube structural system, which made it taller than the World Trade Center towers. The sky deck, on its 103rd floor, with its clear glass ledges, allows you to step out and look straight down. Every height offers a different world. At 20 stories up, you can still make out individual people on the sidewalks, tiny figures moving with purpose, their shadows sharp and distinct. Cars look like colorful beetles crawling along predictable paths. You can hear the city if you listen, honking horns, construction noise, the distant rumble of traffic. Now at 50 stories, people disappear entirely. What remains are patterns, the geometric grid of city blocks, the flow of traffic like slow-moving rivers of light. The sounds of the street fade to a gentle murmur, like ocean waves heard from far inland. Weather becomes more immediate up here. Clouds aren't distant anymore. They're companions, drifting past your window at eye level. And at 100 stories and above, you enter a different realm entirely. The curvature of the earth becomes visible on clear days. Cities spread out like circuit boards, their lights twinkling in organized constellations. Airplanes pass below you, a strange inversion that reminds you just how high you've climbed. The horizon stretches beyond what the human eye was designed to see, creating an almost cosmic perspective on the world below. From the observation deck of the Willis Tower, formerly the Sears Tower, Lake Michigan looks like an inland sea stretching to the horizon. The glass ledges that extend from the building allow visitors to step out into open air, suspended over the city with nothing but transparent floor beneath their feet. It's terrifying and peaceful simultaneously, a moment of pure vertigo that transforms into zen-like calm as your mind adjusts to the impossible height. The weather looks different from up here too. Storms approach like slow-moving continents of cloud. Rain falls in visible sheets across the landscape. Snow creates a blanket of white that softens the hard edges of urban geometry. You're not just above the city, you're above the weather itself, watching it move and change like a god observing the world from a celestial balcony. The psychology of extreme height changes you in subtle ways. Researchers have found that people who work above the 40th floor develop what they call altitude personality, a curious mix of detachment and clarity. Problems that would send ground level workers into panic become manageable puzzles when viewed from sufficient height. It's almost as if perspective literally creates perspective. Weather becomes a more intimate companion at these heights. You don't just experience the rain, you watch it approach from miles away. A gray curtain sweeping across the landscape toward your window. Snow doesn't fall on you, it dances past your office like slow motion confetti. Lightning strikes at eye level, crackling horizontally through clouds that wrap around your building like soft electric blankets. The seasonal changes are more dramatic too. Spring arrives as a slow green wave that you can track day by day across the urban landscape below. Autumn paints the world in rust and gold patterns that look like abstract art from this height. In winter, it transforms the city into a black and white photograph with only the tiny moving lights of cars providing color. Time moves differently in the vertical world, too. Sunrises last longer because you can see further. Sunsets stretch across horizons that ground dwellers never witness. Even the moon feels closer, a neighbor hanging just outside your window. Some residents of super tall buildings report setting their schedules by celestial events rather than clocks, living in a rhythm that's older and quieter than the urban rush below. You press the button, you wait, the hum, the floor numbers clicking past. Honestly, elevators are just vertical white noise machines. The doors whisper open and closed. The numbers flicker by. The gentle sway lulls you. It's a box that takes you from a bustling world to a quiet one, and the journey itself is a kind of gentle, peaceful transition. Now, the late 90s and 2000s saw a new race for the sky, but this time the competition was global. The Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur claimed the title with their soaring spires, but a new debate began to rage among architects. Does a spire count? Or is the height of a building measured by its highest roof? The Petronas Towers were a marvel of design and the tallest twin buildings in the world. The two towers are connected by a sky bridge at the 41st and 42nd floors. This bridge, designed to move and sway with the towers, isn't just a walkway. It's a structural necessity. It prevents the towers from colliding during high winds, acting almost like a giant spring. Below, the design of the towers themselves is a tribute to Islamic geometric patterns, a building that is both modern and rooted in ancient design traditions. is a spire a spire? Or is it a pinnacle? Is it an antenna? It's the kind of debate where everyone falls asleep before a winner is declared, which makes it perfect for us. One architect argued that a building's height should be measured only to its highest occupied floor. Now another said it's the highest point, period. It's a debate about feet, meters, and a whole lot of ego. It's a testament to the fact that even at the highest level of design, people can still argue about the minutiae. Then came Taipei 101. It was a marvel of both architecture and engineering, designed to look like a giant bamboo stalk. But in Taiwan, earthquakes and typhoons are a constant threat. So engineers installed a giant 660-ton pendulum inside the building, a tuned mass damper designed to swing and counteract the motion of the building. The damper is a massive golden sphere suspended between the 87th and 92nd floors. During a typhoon or earthquake, the pendulum sways gently, absorbing the energy of the building's movement and keeping the offices above it from swaying more than an inch or two. It's a gentle guardian that keeps the whole tower from getting dizzy. Imagine a giant golden cat toy just hanging there, except it keeps your office chair from sliding. That's what a tuned mass damper is. A passive-aggressive protector that swings and sways to keep you from swaying. It's a silent guardian, a gentle giant, a pet that lives in the sky and keeps you safe. Every skyscraper has its own soundtrack, a quiet symphony that most people never notice. In the mechanical floors, massive HVAC systems hum in deep, resonant tones like the breathing of a sleeping giant. The frequency is so low it's felt more than heard, a gentle vibration that travels through the building's steel frame. Elevator cables sing as they move through their shafts, high, thin notes like violin strings being bowed by invisible musicians. When elevators pass each other going up and down, their cables create harmonics, brief musical intervals that echo through the empty shafts. Maintenance workers learn to identify problems by listening to these sounds. A cable that's slightly out of tune, a motor that's running rough. Wind creates its own music as it moves around and through the building. Antenna arrays on the roof whistle softly in strong breezes. The building itself can act like a massive tuning fork, resonating at specific frequencies when wind conditions are just right. In Chicago, locals can actually hear the Willis Tower singing on particularly windy days, a low, haunting note that carries for blocks. Water moving through pipes creates its own percussion section. Thousands of gallons flowing up to supply restrooms, drinking fountains, and coffee machines. The pumps create rhythmic pulses like a massive circulatory system. Late at night, when the building is mostly empty, these sounds become more prominent. It's the hidden heartbeat of a sleeping vertical city. Even the elevators have their own acoustic signatures. the soft ding of arrival bells, carefully tuned to be pleasant rather than jarring, the whisper of doors opening and closing, the gentle hum of motors that have been engineered to run as quietly as possible. Modern elevators are acoustic marvels, powerful enough to lift tons of weight, quiet enough to let passengers doze during their vertical journey. Then came the tallest of them all, so tall, in fact, that it changed the rules. The Burj Khalifa in Dubai towers over everything else. Its design is based on the Hymenocalyx flower, which has 3 distinct petals. The tower is so tall that the air pressure at the top is a third lower than at the bottom. It's an entire ecosystem of its own. The sheer scale of the Burj Khalifa is difficult to comprehend. The foundation alone required a massive effort, with 192 piles dug 164 feet into the ground. It used more than 45,000 cubic meters of concrete in its foundation alone, enough to pave a road 200 miles long. At the peak of construction, over 12,000 workers were on site. They used a self-climbing formwork system, a kind of massive movable mold that allowed them to pour a new floor every 3 days. The concrete had to be specially formulated to stay stable in the hot Dubai weather, and it was pumped to a record-breaking height of over 2,000 feet. One of the curious facts about super talls is that the highest apartments are often empty. They're sold as investments, not homes. The owners live in London or Singapore, while their apartment on the 120th floor enjoys the sunset alone. The lights are on, but nobody's home. Literally. The Burj Khalifa is so tall that the sun rises 2 minutes earlier at the top than it does at the bottom. This means that if you're a Muslim and you're praying at the top, you have to wait 2 extra minutes to break your fast during Ramadan. It's a very practical, if not slightly mind-bending example of just how tall these buildings have become. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Skyground, the once-a-day tablet that cures your fear of heights. Just swallow one before stepping into the elevator, and suddenly the 120th floor feels as cozy as your living room couch. No vertigo, no sweaty palms, no looking down in panic at tiny cars that look like ants. And here's the best part. Thousands of customers have taken Skyground before eventually falling from great heights, and not a single one has ever complained. Not once. Of course, they were dead. But for everyone else, Skyground works wonders. Skyground, because gravity is a problem for tomorrow. Sleep easy. Rise higher. The observation decks of these super tall buildings aren't just for looking out. They are for looking down. At the top of the Burj Khalifa, the At the Top Sky experience takes you to the 148th floor, where the world below is silent. From this height, the cars on the ground are like tiny moving jewels. The skyscrapers of Dubai, which from street level look impossibly tall, now appear like Lego pieces scattered across a vast, dusty landscape. From here, the human world becomes an elegant blueprint. The highways are lines of light. The neighborhoods are grids of twinkling stars. And the city's parks are dark, quiet oases. It's a view that can make you feel both incredibly small and yet deeply connected to the grand pattern of our urban life. At this height, noise and chaos are gone, replaced by a visual symphony of light and shape. It's an act of passive meditation, a quiet moment in the sky. Skyscrapers often skip floor numbers. In the U.S., you'll rarely find a 13th floor due to superstition. In Asia, the number 4 is avoided because it sounds like the word for death. So you climb floor by floor, except the numbers lie. You may pass from the 3rd to the 5th floor, from the 12th to the 14th. The ghosts, it would seem, get their own suites. These missing floors create a peculiar form of architectural poetry. In some buildings, the 13th floor exists, but is used only for mechanical equipment, HVAC systems, electrical panels, and maintenance storage. It's a floor that exists in physical space, but not in human consciousness. Workers enter just through service elevators, doing their jobs in a numerically non-existent space. In Asian skyscrapers, the missing 4th floors multiply the superstition. Buildings may skip 4, 14, 24, 34, and so on. A 50-story building might actually have only 35 numbered floors. Visitors find themselves in mathematical limbo, where the elevator buttons tell a story of cultural fears embedded in architectural design. Some buildings embrace the ghost floors differently. They become secret spaces, private clubs, exclusive restaurants, or hidden gardens that exist between the official floors. These phantom levels create mystery within the mundane structure of vertical living. The Shanghai Tower is a marvel of green design, twisting as it rises to reduce wind loads, and at its top, a glass floor offers a dizzying view down. The tower's unique spiral shape is more than just a beautiful aesthetic. It's a form of passive engineering. By twisting as it rises, the building reduces wind load by 24%, which saved over $58 million in steel costs. It's a building that whispers to the wind rather than shouting at it. Inside, the tower is a vertical city with 9 separate vertical zones that include retail, offices, and sky gardens. Each zone has its own atrium, a multi-story indoor space that feels more like a small town square in the sky. It's a series of little neighborhoods stacked together on top of each other. You think your windows are dusty. Imagine 128 floors of them. Each super tall needs an army of window cleaners. Sometimes they rappel down the sides like sleepy spiders suspended thousands of feet in the air. Their job is to keep the glass sparkling so you can see the view. And then there's the Burj Al Bait clock tower in Mecca, which is less about height and more about presence. It has the world's largest clock face, visible from miles away, a beacon for pilgrims, and a reminder that Some towers serve a higher purpose. Being this high above the earth does something strange to human sleep patterns. The air pressure is different, not enough to require oxygen masks, but enough to affect how deeply people rest. Residents of super tall buildings often report more vivid dreams, as if the altitude somehow amplifies the subconscious mind. The gentle swaying of these massive towers, imperceptible during the day, becomes more noticeable at night when the building is quieter. This subtle movement, like being rocked in a giant cradle, can actually improve sleep quality. The human body, evolved from tree-dwelling ancestors, finds comfort in gentle motion. Sound travels differently at these heights. The usual urban noise, traffic, sirens, construction, and gets left behind around the 30th floor, and what remains is a profound quiet that city dwellers rarely experience. White noise machines become unnecessary when your bedroom window opens onto silence itself. Light pollution affects these aerial residents differently as well. While ground-level apartments deal with street lights and neon signs, super tall dwellers contend with aircraft navigation lights and the glow of neighboring towers. Some develop sleep schedules that sync with aviation patterns rather than terrestrial rhythms. The temperature regulation in these buildings creates its own sleep environment too. HVAC systems work harder at extreme heights, fighting against greater temperature differentials between inside and outside. The result is often a perfectly climate-controlled environment, a sealed bubble of comfort floating in the sky. And there's something psychologically soothing about sleeping so far above the world's troubles. Problems that seem enormous at street level appear somehow manageable from the 100th floor. Stress literally becomes smaller when viewed from such heights. The bedroom becomes a meditation chamber, suspended between earth and sky. Now, there are towers around the world that will never be finished. The Jeddah Tower in Saudi Arabia was planned to be the first to reach 1 kilometer high, but unfortunately, construction has stalled. Think of these unfinished towers as permanent sleeping giants, half out of bed, groggy, refusing to rise. They stand as these monuments to ambition, frozen in time. They just need a quiet moment, a little rest, perhaps a gentle whisper to get them to finish their climb. These incomplete towers create their own haunting beauty. The Ryugyong Hotel in North Korea stands 105 stories tall, but is never open to guests. It looms over Pyongyang like a concrete question mark, its empty windows reflecting clouds that will never be seen by hotel visitors. Birds nest in its upper floors, the only residence this vertical city will ever know. In Spain, abandoned tower projects from the 2008 financial crisis stand like modern ruins. Half-finished elevator shafts rise toward unfinished dreams. Construction cranes stand frozen in place, their arms reaching toward skies they'll never touch. These structures become accidental monuments to economic ambition and human limitation. Some unfinished towers take on new life in unexpected ways. The unfinished Sathorn Unique Tower in Bangkok has become home to urban explorers and squatters. What was meant to be a luxury residence has transformed into a vertical village of unofficial residents living in an architectural ghost. The elevators don't work, so residents climb dozens of flights of stairs to reach their improvised homes in the sky. The Jeddah Tower itself is a fascinating story of a dream put on hold. Construction there began in 2013 but stopped in 2018. It stands now at over 1,000 feet tall, a concrete skeleton in the desert. It's an example of a dream that was almost realized, a monument to a world that shifted. But what if we didn't stop at a kilometer? What if we kept building up until we touched the edge of space itself? Well, the engineers and dreamers never sleep. In Tokyo, the Obayashi Corporation has proposed the Sky Mile Tower, a building that would reach 5,577 feet into the sky. That's more than a mile high. It would house 55,000 people in what they call an actual vertical city. The tower would require materials that don't exist yet, and elevators that would take 20 minutes to reach the top. It's scheduled for completion in 2045, assuming they can solve a few minor problems like how to keep a mile-high building from swaying itself apart in the wind. In Saudi Arabia, the Line project promises to be a horizontal skyscraper, a single building 105 miles long, 1,640 feet high, and 650 feet wide. It would house 9 million people in a perfectly climate-controlled environment, stretching across the desert like a mirrored wall. Critics call it impossible. Proponents call it the future. It's probably both. China continues to reach upward with characteristic determination. Shenzhen, once a fishing village, now boasts more skyscrapers over 500 feet tall than New York City. The Chinese approach to super tall construction is refreshingly straightforward. If you need space and you have the technology, why not build up? The Ping An Finance Center, completed in 2017, was originally planned to be even taller, but aviation restrictions trimmed its final height. Even the sky, it seems, has zoning laws. Dubai, never content to rest on its vertical laurels, has plans for the Creek Tower, which may eventually claim the title of world's tallest structure. The design looks like a minaret made of glass and steel, a spiritual tower for a secular age. It's designed to sway gently in the desert wind, like a massive reed bending but never breaking. But the ultimate vertical dream belongs to Japan. Again, the Obayashi Corporation, that same company behind the Sky Mile Tower, has an even more ambitious plan. A space elevator. Not a building that reaches towards space, but an actual elevator that extends 60,000 miles into the cosmos. all the way to a counterweight beyond Earth's atmosphere. Where will the next generation of super talls rise? Well, the smart money is on Africa and Southeast Asia. Lagos, Nigeria is expected to become the world's largest city by 2100. So vertical growth seems inevitable. Jakarta is sinking into the sea, making upward expansion not just practical but necessary. Mumbai's slums could be replaced by vertical neighborhoods that house the same number of people in a fraction of the ground space. Climate change is creating new opportunities for vertical cities in unexpected places. As northern regions warm, cities like Anchorage and Reykjavik may become centers of innovation and population growth, requiring vertical solutions for limited land. But the most intriguing vertical future may not be on Earth at all. Again, it's the space elevator. It's not just science fiction. It's engineering waiting for materials science to catch up. The concept is elegantly simple. A cable anchored to Earth's surface extends 60,000 miles into space, beyond the point where centrifugal force balances gravity. Elevators would climb the cable, carrying cargo and passengers to orbit for the cost of a train ticket. The Japanese space elevator project, led by Obayashi Corporation, plans to complete construction by 2050. The key breakthrough they're waiting for is carbon nanotube technology, materials strong enough to support their own weight across such impossible distances. Carbon nanotubes are theoretically 100 times stronger than steel, and yet lighter than aluminum. If they can manufacture them at the required scale, well, the space elevator becomes not just possible, but inevitable. The elevator cars themselves would be more like cruise ships, taking 7 days to reach the top. Passengers would watch Earth shrink below them, passing through the atmosphere, through the realm of satellites, and finally arriving at a space station larger than any city. It would be humanity's ultimate skyscraper, a tower that literally reaches the stars. Imagine stepping into an elevator that takes a week to reach its destination. The Obayashi space elevator would be humanity's quietest achievement, a gentle ride from Earth's surface to the edge of the cosmos. The journey would begin like any skyscraper trip. Doors close, elevator hums to life, floor numbers tick by. But instead of stopping at the 100th floor, the numbers keep climbing. 500, 1,000, 5,000, and at some point, the floor numbers become meaningless. You're no longer measuring floors, but you're measuring altitude itself. The first few hours would feel familiar, looking down at familiar landscapes, watching cities and coastlines pass below. But gradually, the view would change to something no human has experienced during routine travel. The curvature of Earth becomes obvious. Weather systems look like slow-moving spirals. The atmosphere becomes a thin blue line around a marble hanging in space. Passengers would sleep in comfortable cabins as the elevator climbs through the night, waking to find themselves higher than any airplane has ever flown. Day and night cycles would shorten, as the elevator rises beyond the atmosphere until passengers experience multiple sunrises and sunsets each day. And by the third day, Earth would look like a planet rather than a world, blue and white and brown, suspended in the black of space. The passengers would now be space travelers without rockets, astronauts without spacesuits, making the ultimate commute in perfect comfort and silence. The space elevator would be the tallest structure ever built, but also the quietest. There's no wind at that height, no weather, no sound except the gentle hum of the elevator motor. It would be the ultimate sleep experience, a 7-day journey through the cosmos, rising above all of Earth's noise and chaos toward the perfect silence of space. Feet, meters, floors, elevators, again and again, like counting sheep, only taller and with worse parking. It's easy to get lost in the numbers, but what's important is the feeling of being in a peaceful space that feels like it's at the very top of the world. In the end, all these towers share something fundamental. They are humanity's attempt to touch the sky while keeping our feet on the ground. Each floor is a step closer to the clouds. Each elevator ride, a gentle ascent from the chaos of the street to the serenity of the stratosphere. As you drift off to sleep, imagine yourself in that elevator, rising slowly through the layers of human ambition. First floor, the bustling lobby with its marble and brass. 10th floor, the hum of office life. 30th floor, above the urban noise. 50th floor, among the clouds. 70th floor, where aircraft look like they're cruising below you. 100th floor, touching the edge of space itself. The numbers tick by on the elevator display. 101, 102, 103. Each floor taking you higher into the realm of dreams, where architects draw impossible plans and engineers solve problems that don't yet exist, where window washers dangle like angels, cleaning glass for views that stretch beyond the horizon. Up here, in the highest reaches of human achievement, everything is quiet. Everything is still. Everything is perfectly, peacefully tall. Sleep well in your Tower of Dreams.